In July of 1973, the Senate Watergate Committee heard a bombshell from White House aide Alexander Butterfield, and Richard Nixon was cornered.
Mr. Butterfield, are you aware of the installation of any listening devices in the Oval Office of the President?
I was aware of listening devices. Yes, sir.
Nixon's Oval Office had a secret recording system. The tape suggested a criminal conspiracy that reached the president. In August 1974, as impeachment loomed, Nixon resigned in disgrace. Now, 40 years later, these same recordings are redefining Nixon's legacy.
Here we have this unique presidential record, 3,700 hours, and only around 5 to 7% had ever been transcribed. And for a historian, this is a gold mine.
Luke Nichter, an associate professor of history at Texas A&M, has dusted off a library of Nixon tapes in the National Archives.
They're part private conversations and deliberations. They're the policy-making process in real time. Nixon thought he was making history, and he wanted to record that history.
Transcribing that history took Nichter 10 years. Some tapes are much easier to understand than others.
A lot of lonely days and nights, missed date nights, that kind of
thing? My wife, Jennifer, there was a period, there are just some periods of time when she says, no Nixon.
Nixon had 7 secret microphones installed in the Oval Office.
The whole word, I was not here in stride. This is totally important for basically, if you put the file in my file, I don't want your file or Bob's or anybody else's, my file.
The system was voice-activated, round-the-clock, and unprecedented.
FDR did a little selective taping. We have John F. Kennedy's tapes during the Cuban Missile Crisis, Johnson tapes on civil rights and all that are valuable. Nixon, it's the whole kit and caboodle.
Professor Douglas Brinkley teaches history at Rice University and is a CBS News consultant. He and Luke Nichter co-authored the Nixon tapes, 700 transcribed pages of largely unheard Nixon moments.
There's anti-Semitic slurs.
Life is totally dominated by the Jews. Newsweek is totally owned by Jews and dominated by them. Their editorial pages. The New York Times, the Washington Post, totally Jewish.
There's bigotry about people in the third world. There's a lot of sort of barnyard cursing, unpleasant amount of backstabbing, duplicitous paranoia going on.
The American people are suckers. Getting to know you, all that bullshit. They're for people to people.
The tapes cover 1971 and 1972. Foreign policy issues dominate as Nixon conducts disarmament talks with the Soviet Union and opens the door to China.
Nixon is playing the chess game of the world. He's moving all the pieces, and his goal is to make America the preeminent power. And if we had to share our power throne with somebody, it would be China. So you can't come away respecting his intellect while disliking the lack of moral fiber in the man.
The war in Vietnam often dominates the conversation. Nixon wants peace, but what he calls peace with honor.
This is from April 17, 1971, and Nixon's really frustrated with the progress of the war. And he's encouraging National Security Advisor Henry Kissinger to up the ante to more bombing, more bombing, more bombing.
We'll bomb the hell out of North Vietnam. Get my point? Just bomb it. Jesus, everybody would do it.
What's clear is that Nixon is making decisions about the Vietnam War that really don't have a lot to do with Vietnam. Bombing the bejesus out of Vietnam, killing South Vietnamese, killing North Vietnamese, putting our own soldiers and South Vietnamese in harm's way, simply to show the Chinese we're tough, to show the Soviets we mean business.
The tapes show Nixon micromanaging the war in no uncertain terms.
Tough language, you will do this is an order, the briefer needs to be here tomorrow.
No, I'm not going to have that kind of crap anymore. From now on, that man is to have his ass over here in this office at 7 o'clock every night. Is that clear? Yes, sir.
In fact, Nixon was micromanaging foreign policy in general. Henry Kissinger was the national security advisor, but this was an Oval Office full of shifting alliances and backstabbing. Nixon wanted Kissinger excluded from Middle East policy because Kissinger is Jewish.
Confidence, I mean, his people were crucified over there. Jesus Christ. 5 million of the big guns. What the hell does he feel about all this? What he ought to recognize is even if he had no problem at all, it's wrong for the country, for American policy in the Middle East to be made by a Jew.
On another tape, Kissinger tries to set aside concerns about his religion in U.S. policy toward the Soviets.
I'm Jewish myself, but who are we to complain about Soviet Jews? It's none of our business. If they complain, if they made a public protest to us for the treatment of Negroes, we'd be, it's none of our business how they treat their family.
Henry Kissinger had a big ego, but Nixon knew he was taping Kissinger, and Kissinger didn't know, so it was a bit of an unfair advantage for the president, and I can imagine Dr. Kissinger must put his head under a pillow every time he hears there's some new tape revelation.
Also revealing is how Nixon viewed his potential Democratic rivals in 1972.
It'll be hard enough for what he were doing this year. It'll be hard enough for him to conduct a foreign policy if the United States has knocked the hell out of South Vietnam. It'll be very hard because he's a gibbering idiot at times. Well-intentioned, but gibbering. Muskie has proved that he has no character. And Teddy is, unbelievable.
Senator Ted Kennedy and his wife Joan were the subject of a conversation that showed Nixon's love of political gossip.
See his wife came into the White House again on some crazy outfit. What a pad saying some giant her Senate wives on. What she wears. Some body stocking. Gaucho, leather gaucho.
A leather gaucho over.
With a bare midriff or something.
Well, no, they put on a body stocking, which is flesh tone.
700 hours of Nixon tapes remain unreleased. Half still classified, the other half because discussions are too personal. Nichter has listened to almost all the rest, a rare backstage pass to White House power politics and Nixon's complex personality.
What is the most important single factor we should come across out of this first degree? Guts. Absolute guts. Do you agree with me?
Nixon really is like a prism. You can turn it any way you want and the light will hit it different ways.